most people don't realize if they have an advisor, they're paying 1%. Sometimes 401k plans charge 1% as a fee. Then the investments inside may have an additional fee. And the math says that 2% on an 8% returning portfolio will mean that you give away half of your money in fees over a 30-year period.
Welcome to Money Musings, a podcast that breaks down money, investing, and wealth with zero BS and unapologetic irreverence. I'm your host and money co-conspirator, Stephanie Zenos. Let's get into it.
Okay, this episode is a test because it is in no way planned. And I just went through this whole arc of an experience the last 24, 48 hours that I really wanted to share. So over the course of this experience, I went from having an experience that was painful, I felt disrespected, and honestly, it was just made me feel really sad. I got my feelings hurt with a friend of mine in a money context. And now I have arrived about 36 hours later with unadulterated joy. And I just want to walk through this experience because I think it's so interesting. So I have a friend that is a little bit older than me who has been kind of a mentor of mine. He is a wealthy man. I have always really respected him. I've looked up to him for a long time. I always asked him about how he thought about money. I have recordings on my phone of me interviewing him about money and wealth and what it was like for him to arrive in that place and how it changed his relationships, what he learned along the way, things that he would tell his younger self. This was in 2019 that I recorded this, and I recently played it for him and replayed it for myself, and it was such a magical thing. Anyway, he's a great guy, all right? His name is Randy. He's a little bit more in the traditional kind of mindset. He's worked his whole life. He came from nothing, so we relate to that. He's made a lot of wealth in the tire business of all businesses, not so sexy, right? And he is invested. He's invested most of his money with a wealth advisor. I will not name the institution. And so basically what happened is we got in a conversation yesterday where he listened to one of my podcast episodes and he gave me some feedback and I got my feelings a little bit hurt. And, he was kind of saying listen, you don't want to be too negative about the traditional roles of financial planning in the industry. And for me, I was I don't necessarily want to be negative. I'm not trying to offend anyone in that space. What I am saying is that historically, there hasn't been enough transparency in that space. And this is so meta because then we got to a place in the conversation where we started talking about his investments. And I was listen, if you pay a 2% fee and you're probably making 8% a year, right, you will give away half of your money over the next 30 years. And he was how is that possible? It is math. That's how compounding works. And most people don't realize that if they have an advisor, they're paying 1%. Sometimes 401k plans charge 1% as a fee. Then the investments inside may have an additional fee, and they probably do if you have an advisor. They're probably active funds. So that might be another 1%. So then you're paying 2%. And the math says that 2% on an 8% returning portfolio, so it comes out of that return, you only get 6% instead. That 2% difference will mean that you give away half of your money in fees over a 30-year period. And so I sent him a recording of this math, a calculator. I showed him, I walked him through the whole thing, And as I did that, I just felt so offended. I was listen, this is my area of expertise. I have been dedicating myself to investing for 22 years. And this is a really meta example of how men sometimes and how traditional financial planners sometimes are a little bit disrespectful towards women. I felt disrespected, he was challenging what I knew. And he even said, in the off chance that you're right about this. And I just was whoa. Here's someone who's a very close friend of mine who I would say I love as a person and who I know loves me as a person, really good friend. And they are challenging or questioning more likely what I know. And it felt not skepticism, but cynicism. And I think what was happening there is he felt challenged. He knew that he didn't know what he was talking about. He also knew that there was a large chunk of money he was giving away every year because I was you're giving away so much money to these advisors and you have no idea what's going on in there. And I think that struck a chord and he felt strongly in that moment. And so he probably was defensive and he didn't even realize that he was being disrespectful to me and then I was getting my feelings hurt. So it was this whole big thing and it took me on a ride. When I tell you that I got fucking angry, I got fucking angry. I could not get over it for a few hours yesterday. I was just so hurt. I was so hurt. It's like, I'm an intelligent woman and I've been dedicating 22 years to this topic. And for someone that's in my close circle to kind of talk to me that way, it just hurt so bad. I was like breathing through it. I was talking to friends. I had to literally distract myself with something else just to get my mind off of it, to get out of that feeling. And wow, like it was triggering for me. And at the end of the conversation, I said, let's get a statement of yours and let's go through it and I'll walk you through it. And like, I would love to see what you're invested in. And he had this moment that he told me today, like, I have never once looked at a statement. So yes, he was definitely feeling challenged in that moment. He definitely got defensive. And, yesterday he said all these things like, well, I'd love to go through your course. Like, I'll take your whole course. I'll pay for it. Like, I'll do the whole thing, And at that moment, I was just like, oh, like, I don't even want to teach you what I know because I feel so offended. Now, today, I woke up. He called me twice since then, and I didn't answer because my feelings were still hurt. I wanted to give myself time to process and make sure that I was going to treat him respectfully on the call and like say what I meant and not speak from a place of pain. But I did. I said, listen, this is a really meta example of like how I've been treated, I feel like my whole life in male dominated spaces where it's like, do you really know what you're talking about though? Aren't you just a cute little girl? And I love men. Like I've really turned that corner. I'm not like a anti-men person at all. I love men. And that's why it hurt so bad, I think, is because it was like a little bit triggering to an old part of me that felt very wounded by men and felt like disrespected in my career in space stuff and in physics. I felt a little disrespected or demeaned as a woman. I mean, I was very demeaned verbally and sometimes worse. So yeah, it was so meta. And then I think also the whole him never looking at a statement and then getting defensive was also very meta because this is the exact thing that I speak to within personal finance. You're not a dummy. You just don't understand what's going on necessarily with your investments backwards and forwards. And some people in the financial services industry, I believe, take advantage of that. They sell you this thing that you don't even realize is so expensive. No one knows that paying 1 or 2% in a fee can take away a third or a half of your money over the lifetime. Logically, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even sound real, but it is, and that's how compounding works. And so it's such a painful thing for people to learn in an already sensitive place that they don't know what they're talking about, or it reinforces that pain of, I don't know what I'm talking about. And so then they lash out. So perhaps, this was just such an incredible example for me to process all the learning that I've had in this space. So now let me tell you about how I turned it into pure joy. So I called him back today and I was really honest. I was like, listen, like I got my feelings really hurt. Here's why, here's how, like, here's what it represented for me. This is why I know you were probably taking things personally and it wasn't really about me. It was about you. And here's what was about me and the part that I am responsible for, right? This is the part that I need to like get off my chest. And he deeply apologized. And he was like, I really do want to learn this stuff. Like I would feel more comfortable paying you. I don't want to have this information from you for free. And for whatever reason in my body, it just didn't feel good, like at all. I felt like kind of like nauseous at the idea of him paying me for my services. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if it's because he's a man. I don't know if it's because he's older or just like a close friend. Certainly like having people pay me for my services is something that makes me feel great. Like I feel like it is a fair form of energetic exchange. But for whatever reason, this just didn't feel good in my body. And so I got off the phone with him and I was like, gosh, like this is such a cool opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to teach a man who's like from a more traditional mindset and place about investing. It's also an opportunity on a personal level for me to show him what I know and really demonstrate my skills and capability in this space. And that's really exciting to me. Like I love the idea of providing value to a friend and also earning their respect and getting to like showcase my abilities on a personal level. It wouldn't feel that way necessarily with like a stranger that signed up for my course, but with a personal friend, like it really does feed something in me of like giving back, but also letting them see just what I've dedicated my life to and getting a little bit of validation in that way. And then finally, on the actual money front, I do love being paid for my services, but somehow when I think about Randy and I think about him giving me, it's a 4-figure course, so having him give me that money, it felt like a pressure because he also can't move through the course like a normal person would. Normally, it's a woman, you're going through the course, you're on a group call with other women. There's like this really sweet energy of like being cradled and led and this community that he's not really able to participate in as an older dude. So it didn't feel right for me to like sell him my course and be like, here you go. But I had this moment of like, what would feel good? Is there something where I can just like transmute all of these weird feelings into something that would feel so joyful and delicious to me? And I started thinking about it, and I started talking to my friend Ayla about it. And I had this thought. It's like, I'm in escrow right now. I'm moving. I'm in a position where all of my furniture was destroyed in a recent rain. It's like in a storage unit that molded, and my doctor's like, you can't use any of that stuff anymore. Like, forget it. My beautiful infrared sauna, done. My beautiful couch, done. I just had this moment of like, what if in exchange for teaching Randy about investing, like he would buy me a beautiful piece of furniture that's going to go in my new home that I'm going to get to enjoy for years and years. And as I'm thinking this, I'm sitting in this big bed, one of the Restoration Hardware cloud beds. It came with this house. It's not mine. And the cats love it. And I love it. And I make the joke, but like, this is my office. Like, welcome to my office in the cloud bed, right? What if Randy purchases me this beautiful cloud bed for my new home, and in exchange, I teach him about investing? And for whatever reason, that was like the most exciting, joyful, fun thought I had had. And I totally transmuted a situation that was like painful and heartbreaking. And yeah, I felt disrespected into something so fun and exciting. How? Why? There's probably a million reasons, but I wanted to share this as just like such a powerful example. It's an example of a woman getting to feel her anger and display it and like be honest about how they really feel. It's an example of taking an opportunity to really understand yourself and take accountability for why things are hurting you on both sides, on Randy's side, on my side, and then transmute a situation that feels a little icky, like having a very close friend pay you for investing information, into something that feels so delightful and joyful and like, wow, a true example of energetic exchange that feels equal and delicious. So I just had to jump on here and share that. This was obviously not a planned episode, but I just feel like there's so many good bits in here. So I hope you took something from this today, and I would love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks for allowing me to be part of your money journey. If you heard something that made you think in a new way or expanded your views about money today, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave me a cute little note in the form of a review. See you next time. As always, a quick but important reminder that everything I share here is solely for the purpose of your entertainment, education, and inspiration. Nothing in this podcast should be taken as personal financial, legal, or investment advice. Everyone's financial situation is wildly different, and that's why it's so important that you do your own research and decide what's right for you.